for young girls, but the police weren't interested, brushing them off as runaways or lies. Many of the missing children were born to poor immigrant families from other states like Bihar and West Bengal. In the police's mind, these cases were busy work, bearing no fruit and a lot of labor. By December 2005, things were not improving in Nathari. Several children, including Jyoti, had gone missing. Although no official complaints were filed with the police, word of the missing children was starting to spread across the city and eventually to the local media. Police had their hands tied and finally started to take some action, questioning people in Nathari and Sector 31 about the missing children. And that's when the police realized something interesting. The missing girls were last seen in the same 100-meter stretch of road before they disappeared. Police immediately started to patrol the stretch, but even with that vigilance, 2 more girls went missing. The 100 meters puzzled the police, so much so they codenamed the area Black Hole because it seemed to suck in children who were never to be found again.
So what did the cops think was happening here? Why were these girls disappearing like this?
So Shweta, the cops still haven't taken this as seriously as they should. Their investigation by this point is more of a performance. They haven't filed FIRs or first incident reports, but to their credit, they explored the obvious angle being gangs kidnapping girls.
And do we know, is that what's happening here?
So Nathari is a slum area. Girls in this area are susceptible to crime such as trafficking. If you've seen Slumdog Millionaire, you know all too well about it. So what the cops do is they raid all the brothels, the red light areas in a 500-kilometer radius of Nathari. And guess what? They were able to rescue 21 girls.
And so that means this case is closed.
But Ashwarya, what's really strange is that none of the girls found were the ones that were missing from Nathari. During the course of these half-hearted investigations from police, something was discovered that baffled everyone, including the people of Nathari. Next to the 100-meter stretch, aka the Black Hole, was a sewer where local boys would play games. One day, when a group was playing cricket, one of the boys hit the ball into the nearby bushes. When the boys went looking for the ball, they found something they wished they hadn't: a polythene bag which had remains of what looked like a person's hand. People immediately reported the disturbing finding to the police. And guess what they did, Ashwarya? They dismissed it as rat carcass, and they threw it away. They threw away actual evidence. The police were trying their hardest to not overcomplicate this case, hoping that it would remain a gang-related kidnapping. But the remains of a hand found in a polythene bag right near where all the kids went missing was enough evidence to suggest that something way more sinister was happening. Almost a year had gone by since Jyoti went missing, and the police still hadn't found any reliable leads. On top of that, even more children disappeared. 14-year-old Rimpa Haldar, 5-year-old Choti Kavita, 9-year-old Rachna Lal, to name just a few. Although the police had no official leads, the people of Nathari had started generating their own suspicions. Number 1 on their list were the inhabitants of house number D5 in Sector 31, 52-year-old Muninder Singh Pandher and his helper, 36-year-old Surendra Kohli. Muninder was a wealthy business owner who jumped between his homes in Chandigarh and Sector 31. Originally from Uttarakhand, Surendra, Muninder's domestic help, travelled to Nathari in the hope of a better life. His wife and 2 children still lived back home. Muninder also had a family, a wife and a son, but it was known that his marital life was unstable. It was rumoured that Muninder was an alcoholic and frequented parties with younger girls. But what really jostled the community's suspicions on top of everything else was that Muninder's house was within the 100-meter Black Hole. All of these suspicions were mere speculation until May 7th, 2006. On that day, Muninder asked 22-year-old Payal if she wanted to work at house number D5. "I'm going to Pandher's. He's called me for a job," Payal told her father Nandlal that morning. This wasn't really out of the ordinary. Payal worked at that house pretty often and her father knew about it. At 4 p.m, Payal left her house and took a rickshaw towards Sector 31. A few hours passed and Nandlal was worried. Payal still hadn't come home. He grabbed his phone to give her a call and get an update. But oddly, her phone was switched off. Nandlal felt that something was off and kept calling relentlessly, only to hear,
"The number you are calling is currently switched off. Please try it later."
After a few more failed phone calls, Nandlal's nervousness quickly turned to certainty that something was wrong. Very wrong. It was a grueling night for Nandlal, who waited the whole day and night hoping for his daughter's return. But the cards were not in his favor. This was Nathari, where daughters didn't seem to return. The next day, Payal still hadn't come home, so Nandlal went to house number D5 to see what he could find. He saw Muninder and confronted him. "Where is my daughter? Where is Payal?" he asked. Muninder's response immediately seemed suspicious. "I don't know any Payal." Nandlal knew it was a lie. Payal had worked at the house before. He knew something was up, but given his social class, he was in no position to interrogate Muninder, a rich business owner from Chandigarh. His next option was the police, but he hesitated going to them. Mostly, he feared being ridiculed and dismissed like all the other families of missing children in Nathari. And to no one's surprise, that's exactly what happened. Immediately, the police told him to get lost or bhag ja. But Nandlal wasn't one to quit. He prodded the authorities for months and sought out lawyers to levy pressure. Unlike the parents of other missing victims, Nandlal had financial resources at his disposal. Payal disappeared in May, but the police didn't file a complaint until October, 5 months after she disappeared. Oh, and the police didn't do this voluntarily. Nandlal got the chief magistrate to help order the police to file it, and after months of begging, urging, and fighting, this was the first FIR filed in this case. And that was after many kids had already gone missing. In the following 5 months, more girls went missing, all in the same 100-meter stretch. One of the many missing girls during that time was 20-year-old Pinky Sarkar, who went missing in August of 2006. When Pinky's parents, Bandana and Jatin Sarkar, went to show a photo of their daughter to the head of Nathari Police, Sub-Inspector Simarjeet Kaur, the officer said, "Your daughter is good looking. She must have run away with someone." As you can imagine, Pinky's parents felt humiliated and infuriated. Even after her parents tried to defend her honor, the police mocked them. "Tum Bengali logo mein ye sab chalta hai. Humne sab dekha hai. Chalo bhag jao yahan se. Such cases are common among you Bengalis. We've seen it all. Get lost," they said. But once the first FIR was filed, 5 months after Payal went missing, and 2 years after the first girl in Nathari went missing, the police finally started to take deliberate action. It was November 2006 when Payal's case appeared on Officer Vinod Pandey's desk. Officer Pandey was the head of surveillance in Noida, the largest city which encompasses Nathari. While looking through the case, Officer Pandey noticed a possible lead. Payal's father had tried to call his daughter, which meant that there was a cell phone, and perhaps that cell phone could be traced. Officer Pandey sent out memos to all the telecom companies in India, telling them to highlight Payal's Nokia phone and her IMEI number, a unique code given to every cellular device in the world. If it popped up on their systems, they would immediately let him know. On top of tracing Payal's cell phone, Officer Pandey thought Nandlal's interaction with Muninder was very suspicious. When he called him in for an interview, Muninder denied knowing Payal. This was a peculiar denial, but Muninder had an alibi. On the day of Payal's disappearance, Muninder said he was in Chandigarh to attend his father's funeral. Officer Pandey was able to check Muninder's mobile location, and he found out that Muninder was telling the truth. He was, in fact, in Chandigarh on May 7th, and other sources also corroborated the story. But although Muninder's alibi checked out, Officer Pandey still felt uneasy. He kept interrogating Muninder, and it was lucky that he did, because that's when Muninder finally broke.
So all of a sudden now Muninder admitted to knowing about the girls going missing?
Not exactly. He admitted that he knew Payal because Payal worked at his house.
Worked at his house. What exactly does that mean?
Payal, you see, was a call girl, and he used to pay her 25,000 rupees to visit him twice a month. So Officer Pandey knows that Muninder lied, but there was nothing he could do about it. With no evidence tying Muninder to the missing girls, you'd think Officer Pandey had hit a dead end. But then the case had a major breakthrough. Airtel, one of India's largest telecom SIM providers, followed up with Officer Pandey and notified him that Payal's cell phone had pinged on their radar. This was the moment Officer Pandey was looking for. The police rushed to the phone's pinged location. Weaving in and out of traffic to find who they thought would be the perpetrator of these terrible kidnappings, they tracked the phone to a rickshaw rider. The police insisted the rider share the whereabouts of Payal, but he claimed innocence. He told police he'd recently bought the phone. In this cascade of events unfolding one after the other, Officer Pandey noticed something pivotal. He realized the phone was ringing. If the phone was ringing, then it had to have a SIM card. And if the SIM card wasn't the rickshaw rider's, then it had to be registered to someone else's name. Perhaps that someone else knew something about Payal. Officer Pandey emailed the phone's SIM card number to all the telecom companies in India, asking them to send any details they had about the SIM's registration and ownership. Officer Pandey got a response. A Christmas gift, you might say. This nonchalant, extremely short email blew the case wide open. The email had everything they had been looking for. The email said, Surendra Kohli, Village Nathari, Sector 31, Noida.
Wait, so Payal was the call girl that Muninder used to call, and he confessed to this. So then why would Surendra Kohli's name show up on the telecom radar?
That is exactly what baffled the cops too. Muninder had been the prime suspect from day number one because of his scandalous lifestyle. Kohli, on the other hand, was this meek, docile character lurking in Muninder's shadows. And another thing to be noted that was revealed in the investigation was that Payal's own father used to give her up for prostitution. That's why he knew where she was and what she was doing. A barrage of jeeps with sirens wailing swarmed Kohli at house number D5 in Sector 31. There wasn't much Kohli could do. Even if he wasn't involved in Payal's disappearance, the police had enough evidence to arrest him for theft, which was exactly what they did. Police arrested Kohli and brought him in for interrogation. We kept interrogating Kohli till our spirits broke, but he did not break, said Officer Pandey. The man, who everybody in the village described as shy, turned completely stoic while under interrogation. It took hours of prodding, scaring, and convincing until Kohli finally gave in. He admitted it. He had murdered Payal and disposed of her body. But the confessions didn't stop there.
I'm sorry, but that makes no sense to me. First, he's this shy and puny character. Then he's this brick wall of confidence and mystery. And now all of a sudden, he's an open book.
This is a book you wouldn't want to read, Aishwarya. Its contents are all too real and all too gory. In fact, Officer Pandey himself said there was something psychotic about Kohli, something about him that he just couldn't wrap his head around. Now that the police had finally broken Kohli, the story was finally filling out. Kohli said he was the one who called Payal to house number D5 because he was infatuated with her. When Payal went to the house, they both sat in the living room. Kohli said he tried to solicit Payal for sex, but she refused. After facing denial, he decided to take a more aggressive route. While fetching some tea for the pair, Kohli went behind Payal and strangled her with her own scarf. Looking to capitalize on his urges, Kohli then said he had sex with Payal's corpse. But if that wasn't disturbing enough, what about all the other missing girls? If he could do that to a grown woman, what about the children? As soon as the police made this connection, they quickly grabbed the missing persons flyer, which had all the children's photos on it, to show to Kohli. One by one, he identified the children and revealed the extent of his atrocities in the black hole. Over the course of 2 years, at least 19 people had gone missing. Rimpa Haldar, Pinky Sarkar, Jyoti Lal and Payal, to name a few. Why 19? Why so many? Why girls? Why children? These questions had baffled the cops, but they wished they hadn't asked them. In January or February of 2004, I was standing outside D5 when a girl was coming towards Sector 31 from Nathari. Later, I was told her name was Rimpa Haldar. I lured her in, telling her I have candy for her. As she came in, I went behind her and strangled her with her own scarf. After that, I tried to have sex with her but wasn't able to. So I killed her with my own hands. Why did you kill her? I don't know. There was just this pressure that I had to kill her. There was something within me I just had to. Then I took her dead body to the bathroom upstairs and I got a knife from the kitchen. After that, I cut a piece of her arm and her left breast which I cooked in the kitchen. Then I ate her breast. When I was going through these recordings, Aishwarya, one thing stood out that shook me to my core. Kohli is on tape saying, Maru, Katu, Khau, or kill, cut, eat.
But Arun, as disgusting as this confession is there more than the confession to link him to the missing people?
That was something the police were worried about. If Kohli rescinded his confession, the cops had nothing to base their case off of, so they immediately went to D5 to collect more evidence. How did Kohli in 2 years dispose not one, not two, but 19 dead bodies with nobody finding out?
But technically people did find out, right? You mentioned the children that were playing cricket and found what looked like a hand wrapped in plastic.
Yes, exactly. And that's where Kohli said he'd buried not just the hand, but the heads of all his victims as well. In the course of their investigation, police collected all kinds of evidence, including psychological evidence like polygraph tests, narco-analysis via truth serum, and my personal favorite, psychoanalysis. And a psychoanalysis was there to determine the level of psychopathy that Kohli was suffering. It was ruled that Kohli was not a psychopath.
So what happened to Kohli?
By December 2006, Kohli was taken into custody, and all hell broke loose. House number D5 was surrounded by hundreds upon hundreds of villagers from Nathari, including the parents of the missing children. Standing outside among the sea of people were Pinky's parents, Jatin and Bandna Sarkar. Right as they reached D5, they both spotted yellow clothes in the police's evidence pile. Bandna fainted when she saw them, because she knew whose clothes they were. They were Pinky's, the clothes she wore the day she disappeared. Aishwarya, I've had nightmares about this case I wouldn't want to revisit. Remember how I told you that Kohli beheaded his victims? The police found 19 skulls behind house number D5, some still with hair on them, and the skulls were so small, you could tell they were a child's. In the course of the investigation, more evidence came up. Clothes, bones, knives, and bodies were uncovered. The Noida police had spectacularly failed. Nathari was headlines all over the world. So on January 9th, 2007, the Nathari case was transferred to the Central Bureau of Investigation, the CBI, India's national investigating body, on the lines of the FBI and US. But if this case wasn't twisted enough for you already, Aishwarya, there are more twists to come.
Of course there are. But what about the man that owned D5, Muninder Pandey? It seems really implausible to me that someone could bury 19 skulls in my backyard and I would have no idea.
Well, Aishwarya, the CBI's theory is that police corruption played a major factor. A CBI investigation found that Inspector Kaur, remember the one who disrespected Pinky's parents, was accepting bribes from Muninder. According to the CBI though, Muninder wasn't paying off the police to cover up any murder or kidnappings. He was trying to hush up his prostitution ring. The CBI concluded Muninder was innocent and gave him a clean sheet. The media didn't care though. Muninder had already been painted a demon by the masses and no amount of evidence could vindicate him. The public's hate for Muninder grew so strong that every time he visited the court, despite police protection, mobs managed to beat him black and blue. Khalid Khan, the lawyer for the families of missing children, believed Muninder's involvement went much deeper than simply soliciting prostitution. He argued that 19 skulls couldn't have just popped up in Muninder's backyard without him knowing about it. But above the circumstantial evidence, Khan said that he had potentially game-changing evidence that would tie Muninder to the crime. On the day of Kohli's arrest, Khan claimed that Muninder had written a confession to the crimes and that he was in possession of it. This was a bombshell claim that Muninder obviously denied. Muninder also had the CBI backing him up, dismissing the confession as evidence. But when the case finally hit the courts, Muninder was not so lucky. Even though the CBI's charge sheet had Surendra as the lone suspect responsible for the crimes in Atari, the Allahabad High Court was not convinced. A last-minute twist changed the outcome of the verdict. The judge allowed Khan to submit Muninder's confession to the police as actual evidence and rejected the CBI's charge sheet, finding both Surendra and Muninder guilty of the Nithari mass murders. Their punishment? Hanging. Something their victims would have gladly chosen over being killed, cut, and eaten.